I ate a meal an hour ago at the sushi restaurant, and there was a couple, older couple, and they're, I don't know, maybe they're 60s at the next table, and they were looking at the schedule, all these great films at True Falls, trying to figure out what to see. And the woman said, "This movie really interests me." And her husband said, "Oh, which one?" And she said, she passed the program and said, "That one." So I was like, that's odd. It was Field Niggas, you know? So we are lucky to be joined by the director, Khalik Allah. He's going to come up and share a story. Give him a big warm welcome. Come on up, Khalik.
Yo, mic check. Feel like a rapper. Don't be afraid to say it. Field niggas. To me, that's a term of endearment. That term comes from a Malcolm X speech called Message to the Grassroots, where he was talking about the two types of slaves that existed back in the plantation days. Excuse me. And basically, you had two types of slaves. You had the house slave, who kind of felt superior. He was either, a butler or a mammy, a maid if it was a woman. And then you had the field slave, who was really taking the brunt of the punishment, getting hung, getting beaten. And as a photographer and filmmaker, all of my work takes place on one corner in Harlem. That's 125th Street in Lexington. And to this day, those are the field slaves. I like to call them field niggas because, slave, I'd rather be called a nigga anyway. So anyway, the way that I got to that corner as a filmmaker is a very interesting story, and that's the story I'm going to tell you tonight. I started out as a photographer on 125th Street in Lexington. And in order to get the grimiest pictures, I was coming out like past 12, around like 1 a.m., 2 a.m. And one particular night, I'm walking down 125th Street, and I made a right turn onto Lexington, and I seen a congregation of crackheads. And they were just all huddled together, smoking crack, whatever they were doing. And I just took a shot, and the flash went off. And when the flash went off, one of them put their hands up like this. And when I went home, I developed the film immediately. I got home maybe at 10 in the morning the next day. I developed the film immediately because I wanted to see the shot. And that person with his hands up struck me. He was one of the most interesting subjects I've ever seen, ever. His face was just like, it was crazy to me, the way he looked. So I told myself, if I ever see him again, I'm going to take more pictures of him and try to develop a body of work with him. So a week later, I came back out to the streets, and, there's a congregation of young brothers smoking this drug called K2. And K2 is a synthetic marijuana. It's basically potpourri that's doused with a chemical to simulate THC. So you smoke it, and it makes you extremely high for like 10, 20 minutes. But it also, eats your internal organs. And this is being sold legally within the stores. And the funny thing is, it's sold legally, but it's illegal to smoke it. So if you're homeless and you buy this in the store, somehow you get it from the store and you smoke it, the police could arrest you. So to me, it's just another way of keeping, the slaves in check, and also the police could easily fulfill their quotas in that area right there. So I'm in this congregation of, these young brothers who I considered young thugs. And I'm telling them I'm a filmmaker, I'm a photographer, and I'm working on a book. And I would like to include you in the book. Please, may I take a photograph? And they were like, yeah. Yo, this guy's making a book. They just showed me a lot of love. And they had this big blunt of K2. And they were just passing it amongst themselves. And I see this one brother in the cut. And, he's just in the dark. He got a hood over his head. And when it gets about this small, smaller than a roach, they finally passed it to him. And it was so small, he couldn't put it to his lips and hit it. So he held it up and was like just inhaling it through his nostrils like it was cocaine. And as soon as I seen that, I'm like, damn, yo, that's the same brother that had his hands up at 2 a.m. I found him. And I was so happy to see him again. It was like I found, a relative that was long lost, what I'm saying? Like it could have been anybody, like, my father, my mother. That's just the feeling I got from him. So immediately, I tried to take pictures of him, and he just ran away. Eventually, I came out. I kept coming, and I would see him, and I'd give him a few dollars, take a few portraits of him. And, sooner than later, we just became tight. We became friends. And I never knew he was coherent. We never really had a full conversation. It was more or less me just taking portraits of him and pictures and just moving on after that. But I made a film called Urban Rashomon with the photographs. Basically, I just cut the photographs together, keyframed them, and added my narration to it, and that was a film called Urban Rashomon, and it was all about Frenchie, and it was really all about the development of our relationship. And when that was done, I came back out into the streets, and they said that he was wearing a suit. And I felt like on a psychic level, he knew that his movie just premiered on YouTube, and he got a suit on to commemorate it and to celebrate it. But, he used to just pick up clothes from the Salvation Army, and sometimes they would have suits or, whatever. So, but anyway, I didn't find him that night. I really wanted to find him and tell him about the success of the film. And this one guy who never really liked me, he was an MTA officer, and his name was Mike. He felt like I was into exploitation. He just didn't like the fact that I was photographing, people in poverty, people suffering. He didn't understand I was trying to depict the beautiful side of that. So he didn't even think there was a beautiful side of that, So anyhow, he's telling everybody that night, yo, this brother is working for the NYPD. All of the pictures are being sent to the local precincts so they could log and file you. And, that was completely, untrue. But, a few people were, questioning me about that. So I told myself, yo, just stay back for a month. Stay out of the area for a month, because I was coming around at real sketchy hours, 2 a.m., 3 a.m., and that didn't work. I came back after a week, except I came in the morning real early, daylight with color film as opposed to black and white film I was using. And I see Frenchie laid out, and I'm like, yo, Frenchie, wake up. Yo, let's take some pictures. And, we began to take some photographs, and I'm like, yo, I'm going to give you some dollars. He said, no, just buy me breakfast. So I took him to this pancake house, and, I bought him breakfast, and, the owner said, do you want it to go? And we were like, nah, we're going to stay with it. This guy had like a snot-riddled pea coat, and, the owner of the pancake spot, he didn't want us to stay there, but we sat down anyway. And I just began to ask Frenchie about his history, about, who he was and where he came from. And he opened up to me in the most eloquent way, and it was so profound and deep. I couldn't believe that, this type of wisdom was coming out of this man who I considered a crackhead, because I was just taking him on face value. So immediately I pulled out my iPhone and started to record this. And I'm basically starting a new movie right there, capturing the audio right there. And that movie became a film called Antonyms of Beauty. And, it really went deep into Frenchie, as opposed to Urban Rashomon, which was my narration. This film, I gave him the voice, and I let him speak in the film. But when that was done, we just developed even further. Instead of the daytime, we went back into the night, 4 a.m., 2 a.m., taking pictures, and basically, he started to become, I couldn't find him after a while, and people started telling me, yo, he's in the hospital. And what happened is, he sleeps in the subway, and the most narrowest part of the platform is where he used to rest his head. And, when he goes to the bathroom, he used to hop into the train tracks and go and defecate in the, in the tunnels. And basically, a train was coming while he was in the squat position, and he tried to get up and run and jump back onto the platform, and it hit him. But he was so emaciated, it didn't kill him. It just ripped off one of his ass cheeks. And, I find it ironic that him being in a damn near dead position, emaciated, saved his life. Because if he was any thicker or bigger, he would have, got clipped. So anyhow, after that, Frenchie really, became scarce, and I couldn't see him, and I would see him every now and then, take some pictures, and we always had plans to work on another film together. And, I just couldn't find him after a while, and they told me he was in Bellevue Hospital. And I went to go visit him in Bellevue Hospital, and I had a camera, I had a microphone, and once I get up to the 10th floor, it's almost like entering an airplane. They check you, they pat you down, you go through a metal detector, and all of that stuff came up in a metal detector. So I had to just put it in the locker, and I went to go see him. And there was 5 chairs facing forward and another 5 chairs facing the other way for the visitors, the visitors and the residents to face each other. And I was in the middle, so 2 chairs that way, 2 chairs this way. And all these people are seeing that, the patient that they came to visit, but the chair in front of me is empty. And, the way I took it is that Frenchie was just in the room, just going through withdrawal and detoxing, and he didn't want to get out of bed to meet anybody. Plus, he never knew my name. We were operating on a psychic level, so it wasn't like, that information was even important to us. After that, I came back out and I seen Frenchie one last time, and that's when I took this picture of him. I don't know how well you can see this, but Frenchie also, he was a 53-year-old man, Haitian man, diagnosed as a bipolar schizophrenic, but he became my best friend. And during the time that I met him, I had some friends that were just blowing me up, calling my phone nonstop, and basing their plans around me, and it just became super annoying. So Frenchie became like the ideal friend because he didn't have a cell phone. You know what I mean? And he lived in the streets, and there was no sort of judgment. It was just 100% acceptance. You know what I mean? And, I love that about him. So the third film that was planned to happen never happened, and that's what Field Niggas became. So anyhow, I'll tell you that story because instead of a particular scene that I didn't capture for the film, it's not so much of a scene as it is a person that I wish was in the film. And to this day, I don't know if he's living. I don't know if he's dead. I don't know what's up with him. You know what I'm saying? Someone told me that he's dead. Someone told me he's in Bellevue Hospital for the criminally insane. And all I could tell you is I miss my friend. And I kind of wish he was in Field Niggas. Word. Peace.